Good morning, Mets fans, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Drivin with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and it is Wednesday, December the 11th, and on today's show, I'm going to continue to talk about the bizarro land that is Major League Baseball, the insane contract signed by Gerrit Cole to play with the Yankees, where he will make over $1 million a game, even in the 4 games of the week where he's not playing. Craziness. And I'm also going to talk about more craziness in the form of rumors surrounding the Mets continuing trade talks with the Pittsburgh Pirates for Starling Marte, and the name included on the Mets side is the thing that's making me scratch my head, so I'm going to talk about that on today's show. I'm going to be taking Brodie Van Wagenen to task in a couple of minutes, so before I do that, I want to first give him some credit. And the credit I'm giving him is for getting Jacob deGrom to sign the extension that he signed to stay with the Mets. Looking at the outrageous contracts that were doled out to both Stephen Strasburg and Gerrit Cole, 2 pitchers who are admittedly very, very good. I'm not taking anything away from either of them. But neither of them are as good as Jacob deGrom. Neither of them have the track record that Jacob deGrom has in terms of back-to-back Cy Young dominance. The only person who you could possibly, probably 2 guys right now you could probably point at and say this is deGrom level would be Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer, and that's it. And that Cole signs this $300+ million deal with the Yankees. That Strasburg goes back to the Nationals for the 200 multi-million. I mean, we're literally talking like monopoly money now. It's gotten to the point now where these numbers are just like completely insane, to the point where they're making over $1 a second just to sit and breathe. They're making over $1 a second. Again, good for the guy. I mean, good for Gerrit Cole. Good for Stephen Strasburg. People don't realize that being a professional baseball player is a shitload of work. It is a giant time commitment. As fans, it's a giant time commitment. We're watching games every single night. These guys are not only playing in the games every single night, but they're preparing their bodies for those games every single day. They're flying to different parts of the country every single day. They're getting up in hotel rooms half of the days of the season. They're doing late night trips from the West Coast to the East Coast, and they're having to play the very next day. It's a tough schedule, and these guys deserve the money they make. They really do. It's just getting out of hand. Will Gerrit Cole be worth this money for the Yankees? I cannot possibly see how. Simply because if you look at WAR and if you believe in wins above replacement, what is the cost for the win for each of those wins? When you're looking at a guy who's being paid what Gerrit Cole's being paid, it's just madness to me. So good for him. I still think it's insanity, and starting pitcher goes once every 5th day, so that's 20% of your season, and he's still getting paid. He's still the highest paid player on your team. I don't know, whatever. I don't get it. I'll never get it. But more power to the guys who are getting these redonkulous monopoly money contracts. Speaking of redonkulous, I mentioned Brodie Van Wagenen on the jump, and I'm going to jump back in, and now I'm going to tackle him. Brodie gets a lot of shit, and some of it's deserved, some of it is a little harsh, and he very rarely gets credit for anything. I gave him credit for the deGrom extension. I will jump to the front of the line of the people who want to lambaste him if he goes through with a trade that involves Starling Marte coming to the Mets and Brandon Nimmo going back in exchange to the Pirates. In what universe does this trade make any sense at this point? We're talking about a team right now, the Mets, that are penny pinching without question, that are strapped for cash, that are have just acquired a center fielder, not an everyday center fielder, admittedly, but a center fielder nonetheless. Trading 2 prospects for that center fielder, and that, of course, was Jake Marisnick, being a Met now. And you're going to move on from a guy who leads your team in on-base percentage, and 2 years ago was a top 10 offensive player in baseball good for a 4.5 wins above replacement. By the way, Starling Marte hasn't had 4+ wins above replacement WAR since 2014. Starling Marte is also making $11-some million next year. He's under team control for next year at $11+ million, and then he's got an option for the following year, so he's under team control for 2 years at a pretty good clip of money. Meanwhile, Brandon Nimmo is under control for 3 years, and he's very controlled as far as the money that you're going to be spending on him. Nowhere near what you're going to be spending on Starling Marte. I cannot. Oh, and by the way, Nimmo's younger. So, again, I'm just sort of like laying out the facts here. And for all of you, and I know there are a lot of people on Mets Twitter who believe Nimmo is no better than a 4th outfielder. That's fine. You still can't trade him. You still cannot trade him. If he is really a 4th outfielder, who are the 3 guys in front of him? Are you including J.D. Davis in that list? Are you including Jake Marisnick in that list? Right now on this team, he is the 2nd outfielder behind the only other guy who's really guaranteed to play out there, and that's Michael Conforto. J.D. Davis, not an outfielder. Jeff McNeil, love him, not really an outfielder. Plays pretty well out there, but he's not an outfielder. So I understand the sentiment that you feel as though, very much like I feel about Steven Strasburg. You put him on another team, he might not be the ace, which is why I don't think he should get ace money. Nimmo, you put him on another team, he might not be the 2nd best outfielder on the team. Probably right. Certainly probably be the 3rd best outfielder, though. And that's my point to all of this. The Mets need him more than other teams need him. He brings way more to the table for the Mets for far less money than Starling Marte will bring to the table, for far more money and perhaps a tick up in his defense. I don't understand this trade. I don't understand why it's being rumored. I thought the Marisnick acquisition was going to put the Marte rumors to bed. It has not. I just don't get it. Anyone else understands it, please feel free to explain it to me, either in the comments below or on Twitter. But I got nothing else. I will be as enraged as I think I've been in a long time if the Mets trade Brandon Nimmo for Starling Marte. Notice how I didn't say if they trade Brandon Nimmo, period. I'm not opposed to moving guys who are top quality guys. I'm not. But you have to get top quality in return. And this is not a fair, balanced trade. This is not a fair return. The Mets are taking on contract dollars from the Pirates, and the Pirates are really getting the better player. There, I said it. Like it or not, I said it. Just look at the numbers. I mean, I can't. It's not because Nimmo smiles and hustles to first base when he walks or when he gets hit by a pitch. That's not why I'm saying that. I'm saying it because if you look at his numbers, taking into consideration that last year, despite being injured and missing like 80% of the season, and oh, by the way, for the first month or so, not being able to turn his head fully to the left or to the right, he still managed to put up an OPS of almost 8. That's pretty good. 800, sorry. 800. That's pretty good for the short sample size. Yes, he batted like 220 something, but his on-base percentage was still 375. His slugging percentage was still over 400. That's pretty good. And you can't replace that with Starling Marte. I'm sorry, you just can't. And like I said, I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to go to the point where I'm ready to jump on the Let's Fire Brody bandwagon. And I was just texting with my buddy Mike last night, and we were talking about it. And as I typically do, I defended Brody. I talked to my friend the day before, and found the same exact argument, myself in the same exact argument, where I'm like, you can't blame Brody. The Wilpons hold the purse strings. It's not Brody's fault. He's hamstrung, whatever. I said I'd feel like he'd be a good GM if he had an unlimited budget, or at least an idea of what a budget might be, or if he had owners that he could convince to spend a little bit more. I've gone to bat for him with people who want to throw him off the bridge. I'm going to join in the let's throw him off the bridge crowd if this goes down. So I'm just hopeful that this is nothing more than a rumor started by a beat writer who may have seen something and heard something, and it's ballooned from there. That would make my day. If that's not the case, well, we'll talk about that later this week. So until then, I thank you for watching today. If you're not already following me on Twitter, you can do so at Mr_Met. It's MISTER_MET. And as always, let's go Mets.